Okay. This is Research Break. Avatar: The Last Airbender Netflix show, episode 1, Aang. And now.
Hello. Welcome. This is Research Break, brought to you... This is Research Break, brought to you by Research Rank Repeat. This is co-host Hannah.
This is co-host Alyssa, and I'll just have you know, Hannah, I'm not cutting that out when I go to edit this episode.
Yeah, we don't really edit these episodes, so yeah. Should have just stuck with it.
It's fine. You know what? You're really committed, and I commend you for that.
Yeah. That will show on the recording.
Oh, will.
Yeah, we are back with another Research Break.
Yeah. So, Hannah and I sat down about 20 minutes ago. We finished episode 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender live action show on Netflix. Episode 1 titled Aang.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about it. I have a lot of thoughts. There's a lot to unpack. I think the first thing I'm going to do is sip some cactus juice and...
There you go.
Get ready to get into it.
Yeah. Whew.
You know what? I forgot. Weren't we gonna get background about the show and like talk about that before the episode? You know what? Let's just save it to the end. Let's do it the last episode. You know?
Yeah.
Let's throw it like when we get to the end. We can talk about some background about it. I'd rather just do that than now. Also because
we also don't like need to get that much background because it's not our normal format.
No, that's true.
So
you know what? Fuck it.
Fuck Avatar. Fuck the background.
Fuck Gran.
Yeah, Gran was very strange.
All right. I think before we get into specifics, maybe we should just kind of go a general overview before we get into specifics. Do we want to kind of follow from the beginning, like talk about it as the episode goes along? Like we don't have to do beat for beat everything, but we can kind of talk about our general thoughts as the episode went along kind of deal?
Yeah.
Chronologically is what the word I'm looking for, and was stalling until I could find it in my brain.
Yeah. I mean, like, opening scene. So, like, opening scene-wise, like, I was intrigued.
I was too.
And I felt very, like, drawn in, because obviously it's a different opening scene than the animated show, and it's...
Right.
It's... You kind of don't know what's going on. It's, like, a chase scene in, like, the streets, and there's clearly firebenders and earthbender.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, I'm like, the firebending, the earthbending looked pretty decent. I wasn't, like, as scared as I thought, because I thought I was a little bit, like, weary. We talked about that. How do they display the elements, the different bendings?
Yeah, that is something we had discussed.
Thought, like, it was pretty decent. Like, I wasn't mad about it.
Yeah. I'd just like to start by saying I recorded almost 3 pages worth of notes during this episode, which is maybe the most I've done ever for anything. I just want you to see. So this page was from our preview, but I recorded this and this and that, all from this. I just kept, anytime I had a thought, I just wrote it down at stream of conscious style, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I thought it was really interesting. The beginning felt very Mulan. Like when the Huns are invading China, when the earthbending spy is captured, is in front of the Fire Lord Sozin, the old man, and it felt very much like, now all of China will know that you are here.
Yeah,
like light the fire on the Great Wall, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I did really find it unique to kind of set up this political thriller element more so now than later on, because I feel like the political elements don't really start to come into play until maybe book 2 in the animated show, I guess I should say, or the end of book 1 kind of deal. Like that's a lot less of the focus until way later on. But I thought it was interesting to be like, yeah, we have these earthbending spies who get some knowledge that they're gonna come attack them, but really he's like, oh, we gotcha, we fooled ya, we wanted you, you got played, we wanted you to have that information. We're actually going for the air nomads, you know, we're hitting them now. And I thought that was interesting to kind of set up this idea that like there'd been rumors of the war and rumblings, and, like, I remember from the animated show, like, they kind of teased that, like, Sozin, this Fire Lord at the time, had kind of started to, like, dip his toes into taking over little territories, and Roku was like, fuck that, shut your mouth, sit down, know your place, and then he died, and then he was like, cool, I can do whatever the fuck I want. But I did find it interesting the way they chose to tackle the, like, using the comet to take out the Air Nation, and the way they set that portion up.
Yeah.
I think it maybe felt a little less, what was the word I used? I wrote down something. Like, I felt like it felt a little less effective in this than it did in the animated show. Like, the setup of it. Because I feel like when we get to that point, you know, we never see, throughout the show, we never see the actual, like, attack of the Fire Nation. And I'm pretty sure that's just because it's a children's show, and you can't really show a bunch of firebenders just, like, genociding an entire nation, right? Like, that's pretty... I think Nickelodeon was like, not doing that. And so that aspect, that part, the actual, like, them attacking, I thought was fine.
Yeah.
That part I thought was fine. I didn't, however, love the setup into that. I understand they're like, hey, we're having a comet festival, so every airbender in the world is coming right here, conveniently, in the same spot.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I get that. But then also, and I don't know how far you got in your watch through of book 1. Did you watch episode 3 yet?
Yeah, I got through. No, I got through.
Okay.
I think I got through like 6 or 7. I was trying to at least get through the first chunk because I figured the first couple episodes, which I was right, had a lot to do with the first episode.
So the episode 12, The Storm, which is basically like a background into Zuko and Aang and like kind of parallels them, that's where we get that background about Aang learning he's the Avatar and that setup. So I felt like I didn't necessarily like some of the changes they made where it's like in the animated show, and I know it's not the same thing, but I'm going to compare because it's a retelling of a story that already exists. So Gyatso, his like mentor, who I like, support Gyatso, he like, they know he's the Avatar. These other guys want to tell him, and because they're trying to prep for this war, because they know like it's something's happening, and he's kind of adverse to that. He's like, he's a child, we need to like let him be a kid, and they're like, we're gonna send him away because you're getting too close to him. And so Gyatso's like, I'm not gonna let them take you away from me, but Aang runs away because he's like, I don't want to go to another air temple. Like, he runs away, he's afraid. In this, the way they stage it is almost as if he can't sleep and he goes on a little midnight flight with Appa and happens to get caught in a wave. So it feels different in the way that they're portraying Aang's aversion to being the Avatar. It's not really the same type of feeling. And that could be fine. The way they set that up could be fine because, again, we're only 1 episode in and it's going to build. So I'm not like, oh, that's terrible, I hated the way they do that. But I did find that to be really interesting, the way they kind of changed that dynamic of that relationship with Gyatso, and also like the way that he approaches the Avatar aspect of his life. Yeah,
I honestly, I didn't remember a lot of that because I haven't gotten to that episode. But yeah, I remember seeing the way he acted towards it, and I was like, I don't really remember that being the case from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, I know that the show is probably trying to not recreate the original show.
Yeah. It definitely seems like that based on what we've seen so far.
Right. And I'm like, I get that because it's one of those things where, like, this is a weird comparison, but we've done this subject on our show, so roll with it. It was similar to, like, when someone absolutely did a performance on American Idol and, like, you didn't want to touch it after that, right?
Yeah.
And the only way you could touch it again was if you completely did something different.
Of course.
And, like, tried to mix it up. So it's like, I get them wanting to do different things because we did say we don't want a shot for shot of the show.
I don't want that.
I don't think anyone wants that.
No.
I think, though, like, there might be certain things we find where we don't necessarily either, like, agree with or, like, it's a little bit too far. Like, they're trying to go too far from the original.
Yeah.
So that might be one of those cases. Because there was other stuff, like, that I was kind of like, oh, that's, like, a choice. We said that a couple times. It's a choice.
Airbending.
Yeah, like, okay, because we talked about the firebending, the earthbending looked pretty good.
Yeah, I was happy with the way those look so far.
Yeah, the airbending was a bit...
a bit janky.
Which I did think that the airbending is the hardest
It is.
show. Because, like, I've seen superhero shows try and do, like, fast moving and air stuff, and it can get a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some air stuff, specifically towards the beginning.
It was like, he almost looked like he was flying, which I'm like, is not.
Yeah.
I'm not into that. I don't like the idea that we're like, oh, hey, look, he's floating, he's flying in the air. Like, I like more when it's like, he can jump really high because he's got a little air boost, right? Like, it's more like momentum instead of just like, I'm hovering, I'm flying, I'm airbending.
Which,
yeah, it's a bit that could improve, you know, that might not only be like that, but yeah, of the 4 bending elements that we've seen, again, we haven't really seen a lot of water bending.
No, I mean the brief water bending we actually saw was fine. Like, it was okay. Yeah, it was fine. Like, it's not bad. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what else they're going to do with the airbending and how they, like, try and change it.
Because I did actually, the one thing I did think they did fine was Aang on the glider. I thought that looked fine.
Yeah, that looked fine.
That actually looked fine. That part I thought
But they didn't really utilize that
until
later on.
Until, like, the very close to the end of the episode.
A little... I mean, I get if you're trying to, like, save that element, but it is a little strange.
In terms of, like, set... I'd made a comment. Hannah and I watched this over, like, the Netflix party where you can, like, be watching the same.
You can, like, chat,
basically. You can chat while you're watching and you're on the same timeline and you can pause it.
Right.
Like, if someone's got to pee or whatever, you can pause it. Or get a drink or whatever. But something that I had mentioned was that I thought the set pieces were pretty well designed. I did liked, I don't know why, I just was like, I did a little, that's all, folks. Little Porky Pig there. Porky Pig in it.
Oh, God.
I'm not wearing pants. Surprise. I'm pretty sure Porky Pig doesn't wear pants, right? Doesn't he just have a shirt on?
I don't think any cartoon characters wear pants.
You know what? You're probably right.
Winnie the Pooh didn't.
No.
He wore a shirt.
He just got a little short crop top.
He's a body positive icon, as we've discussed.
Daffy Duck in it, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, off tangent. It's fine. I thought the colors were really vibrant for, like, the Southern Air Temple. I know this style is a bit different from the animated show, but I thought it was fine. I didn't dislike the way it looked. When we got to the Water Nation, got to the Southern Pole, I felt like the background sets were really blurry. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like, they were really, out of focus.
I didn't know if it was because, like, they clearly had to use, like, some sort of...
They have some sort of a blue or green screen situation
Right, so I'm like,
on.
I didn't know if it was because of that, but yeah, they did, there was some notable difference in, like, quality and visual.
Like, from the Air Nation to the Water Tribe, I noticed, I was like, it seems a bit blurry.
Yeah, and I've kind of equated that to, like, them probably having to use some sort of thing, and, like, maybe, I don't know what the budget is like for this, but yeah.
Yeah. I did, though, I will say one thing about this attack on the air nomads that we actually see. I did think it was interesting that we get to see, like, the power of the comet immediately. Because in the show, you don't see that until the end of the show. Like, the finale is where you see that kind of, like, intense firebending. And I kind of thought that was, you know, like, you set the stage early. Although I don't feel like it was as big as it could have been.
No.
I mean, they were just, like, setting people on fire and, like, and that was pretty intense, but...
and, like, I wrote a note about it, too. Like, I wonder how much of that, like, maybe they want to save some stuff to... Because, you know, you don't want to give all your tricks...
Right
at the beginning, like...
Sure.
I mean, I definitely noticed, like, talking about that and, like, immediately seeing... It's definitely a lot, like, darker of a show.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Than Avatar. Which part of me is, like... I think that's cool to do.
Yeah. I assumed it would be for a live-action audience, not on Nickelodeon. That was my assumption, is that we would get a bit more of a darker tone.
Yeah, I wonder, like, what effect, though, it will have, like, on the characterization. Because, like, I did notice that Aang definitely seemed a bit more, like, not as, like, lighthearted and playful as he might be in the comics. And I know there's, like, a lot in the first episode that he was dealing with, so I wonder if they'll show that side of him more.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I definitely, like, I want to say, Zuko, the person who played Zuko, like,
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
That man was working.
Man had it on point.
He did.
I got really loud. I just see my audio tracks blaring off the page.
But no, he was the best, like, anime to regular character, like, for me.
I agree. And we'll get into a bit of the characterizations. Probably now would be a good point. But we
might as well.
I 100% agree. Of the main cast, I am sold on Zuko. I'm in. Like, I think he's got it. Like, he's doing the moves. Yep. Like, I thought the martial arts, the firebending was good for, like, where Zuko's supposed to be. You know, he's this moody, emo teenager. I thought the look was right. The facial expressions, I felt like, were right. The attitude. I thought Zuko, surprisingly, I was surprised. I was like, this is not what I would have thought going into this. I thought that was going to be the hardest one to do right.
Yeah, no, he was like...
Yeah. Props to that actor. I should look up his name, because I don't know who plays him.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I definitely, as soon as he, like, the first scene, like, as soon as he started talking, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not mad about this. And he does. He very much fits the character. So props to the actor.
My father.
Yeah, we were concerned, but he pulled through.
He pulled through. His name is Dallas James Liu.
Okay.
Full support. You got it, dude. That's a round of applause.
Yeah.
You nailed it. That was the biggest surprise for me. I'm going to be completely honest, because Zuko is, like, my favorite character of that show. Yeah. Arguably. His journey is amazing. Incredible, like, character development. His development is some of the best ever in general, just, like, through a show. So I'm very protective of Zuko as a character.
Yeah. But, I was happy.
Yeah.
I mean...
Again, we're only in one episode, but, like, if this is the vibe we're going for, I'm here for it. I'm in. Yeah, I'm sold.
I think, it's hard to tell because some of these characters we didn't get to see a lot of. Yeah. I feel like Katara, I was like, okay, like, I can see the beginnings of, like, Katara.
I am most concerned about Katara, if I'm going to be completely honest.
I'm not.
That's my biggest concern right now.
Okay.
And I'm curious to hear what you think, because I noticed some things, and I have some hesitancy.
I know we kind of there was a scene where she, like, full waterbended from down in the water, like, how many feet? Like, probably
at least 100 feet in the air.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that maybe that's not what I mean. I feel like in terms of her character, in terms of her, like, I don't know how to say, but, like, the way she comforted Aang.
Yeah, I thought that was
after his avatar state. Like, those kind of things reminded me of the character of Katara in the anime. I'm a bit, like, I don't know. There's a few things with her character where I'm like, that's why I kind of feel hopeful, but I'm like, depending on how they take her character. Yeah. Because it could get poor quickly.
My concern is, on more than one occasion, she's mentioned, like, being a warrior, that she wants to be a warrior, that she wants to protect her village. She mentions to Aang about becoming a warrior. Like, I just feel like that part of her character is certainly a part of her character, but that, to me, is something that builds throughout the show. Like, I feel like when we start, she's not, like, she doesn't have that confidence yet at least in the animated show, and she builds into that. And that development is really nice and great, and I love that development. You know, when we get to the end of book 1 and she's like, if you're man enough to fight me, you know, fight me to this like old sexist, I almost said racist, this old sexist waterbending master who won't train her because she's a girl, and she's like, fuck you, fight me if you're man enough. And then we get to that point, but I feel like she's like kind of already there now.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little worried that development is maybe not going to be there, but I do agree, like, if they do it right, like, it'll be fine. But I, like, at least from what I saw, I'm a little nervous about her character. Not the actress. I think the actress is fine, but just, like, what you mean, that development,
I think I'm most concerned... I feel like Aang, like, I feel like the actor's doing a pretty good job, and I feel like he's a little bit, like, heavier than the anime or the cartoon character, but I also feel like that's kind of the tone of the show a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not too concerned about his character. I feel like he definitely seems like, I mean, compared to the movie.
Well, yeah, compared to the movie, anything would be better.
Yeah.
The monks named me Aang.
Yeah, sorry to the child actor who played him in the movie.
Yeah, but, sorry. I mean, I think that was more direction than his fault.
Yeah, but I think I'm more concerned about
Sokka?
Sokka and potentially Iroh.
Okay. Yeah.
Iroh because I love him so much.
Iroh's big shoes to fill.
I also feel like, though, for some reason the acting seemed a little bit like flat, like
for Iroh.
Yeah, because Iroh has this characteristic of like he's kind of just like he doesn't really give a shit about like there's a war going on and there's all this stuff and he's like, I want to go get me some tea. And I'm like, same, Iroh,
I'm gonna play some Pie Show, and you know.
And they had that in the show, and it was like jasmine tea, but like it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
It felt a little flat, so I'm a little concerned about that. Sokka, I don't know. I'm
optimistic.
Okay,
I'll tell you why after you talk about yours.
Yeah. The first, 20 seconds, I sent Alyssa a message, and I was like, I'm not feeling this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe because I love, like, Sokka's voice actor so much that I'm like, that's what I want to hear. But I do think the last, 10 minutes of the show did give me some, this could be okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I started to see, some of the characteristics that Sokka had in the animated show come through. But I was just a little bit concerned because of the characterization at the beginning.
For sure. I'm optimistic, and there's something that I think they set up that's really interesting change from the animated show to this. And it's something that I noticed and I wrote down because I was like, that's an interesting change. I feel like they really set up and emphasized Aang's relationship with Sokka way more than they did with his and Katara's. At least from what we've seen. Because I feel like in the animated show, you get him and Katara bond right away, and Sokka, it kind of takes him a while to warm up to Aang. Like, he's not really... They don't have their buddy-buddy great relationship right away. It takes a while to build. Whereas I feel like you get a lot more of, Aang and Sokka kind of, understanding each other a lot better now as opposed to later. And whereas, him and Katara, I feel like don't have that, instant bond that they do... which is an interesting change that I'm okay with. I think that's an interesting change that I was like, yeah, I can see it. Because Aang and Sokka's relationship is some of the funniest stuff in the show. I love their bromance they got going on, support. And so I was like, that's an interesting change. So I feel like if they build that, it will, I feel confident about Sokka based on what I saw with that. Because, there's that moment where, Sokka's defending the village, and he gets his ass kicked by Zuko, which they kept. That was a different, way they framed it, but it was the same outcome, But Aang was no one's ever defended me like that before. It sets up this, Aang's respect for Sokka, and Sokka's really big on respect, especially early on, So I was like, oh, I like that, change, because, that wasn't really the dynamic initially, in the original show. So that's why I'm optimistic about Sokka, because I felt like that was set up really well.
Yeah, I feel like it does lead to some interesting potential. Having it kind of the opposite of how the other show did it. I feel like that leads to some potentially storylines, and how they go about progressing the characters' relationship.
Yeah.
which would be interesting to see. Yeah, I do think that, like, if they hadn't had the last 10 minutes they had with him and Sokka, like, I think I would have been a bit more concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still feel concerned about Iroh, and I haven't had those concerns eased.
Yeah, but I feel like
But he also wasn't
Iroh
in it
grows.
much.
Yeah, he wasn't in it much. I feel like they didn't really set up this, because I feel like with Iroh, especially Iroh and Zuko's relationship, there's this, like, silliness to Iroh, but there's also this, like, he really is pushing him. Like, you know, he's like, you know, you're not getting it. Like, I remember there's, like, the scene it was done kind of similarly, but not exactly the same, where he's, like, training to meet the Avatar, and he's like, teach me the more advanced set. I need to know it. And he's like, you're not getting it. Like, you're not doing the firebending right. And he's like, no, teach it to me. Like, you're just like a lazy old, you know, kind of deal. Like, I feel like that push and pull is not necessarily set up yet, or at least the same way.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it builds right, it should be fine. At least their relationship. I'm not sure about Iroh himself. We'll have to see about that.
Yeah.
I think, though,
that's fair.
Do you have anything else about characteristics? Because I have, like, one other major thing I want to cover.
No, we can move on.
Okay, this is probably my biggest complaint about this episode, is I feel like from the point of the iceberg to when Zuko shows up, they did not do that right.
No.
The whole, like, getting in the water tribe, setting up that he's an airbender, that he, you know, and then eventually finding out that he's the Avatar, I was not in on, like, I didn't like the way they changed that. One, why is Gran dropping all the plot? Like, why, like, I get, you know, her character is supposed to be this, like, hope and, you know, this, like, you know, basically giving Katara this, like, drive and, like, sense of, like, we have to have hope. But she's just like, at one point she just, like, walks over and it was like, fire, earth, water, air. Long ago, the four nations
she
lived together in
said the
harmony.
intro.
She said the word for word, and I'm not even like, go back and listen to it. Word for word, the intro to the animated show. It just sounded so stilted, and it was weird. And I'm like, I get it's a little Easter egg, like, ooh, hoo, hoo, we're doing the intro. It didn't fit for this really serious scene about how he's an airbender, and he's, like, the last airbender. And she's just, like, telling him this, and it, like, I feel like that sense of, like, Aang, because, you know, when Katara tells him, it feels a lot more dramatic and a lot more, like, serious, and, like, the pain, and, like, I didn't really get that from that scene.
No, and, like, Gran, I think, took too many pills, because, like, she was just, like, void of life.
Oh my god.
Like, it was insane. I literally, like, every scene she was in, it was like,
man, she sucked.
You are the Avatar.
And then, and then her saying, like, you're the Avatar. Like, what the fuck, Gran?
Yeah.
Like, no. This is not how you do that. Also, like, how would she know that? How would she know that?
There was also, like, a weird cutscene to Zuko for the first time, and it was, like, 3 seconds of the ship. It was weird.
So they're setting up this idea that, like, when the light comes up from Aang getting out of the iceberg, you know, he sees the light, but they set up the ship shot before that happens. So there's a weird, like, 5-second shot where you're like, brr, 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 ship, and then you're like, see a little hand doing some doodles, and then it goes back to Aang, and then it goes back to Zuko, and it was just, like, a weird cut.
It was weird.
And I was like, and I even, like, sent you a message, I was like, that was weird. Like, I didn't love that.
I do think that there was some scenes that weren't executed.
No, great. I agree. That's
again one of those things of maybe trying to change things up, but
but it doesn't really
just
work.
Not executed well. Yeah.
I didn't love that. I was really not. I didn't think that worked super well. Like, I did like the change of the scene. Like, in the animated show, they go to this, like, old Fire Nation ship, this, like, abandoned ship, and they are walking around, and it's booby-trapped and whatever. And I liked that they just, like, had this spot where Katara is practicing waterbending, and I'm like, that makes sense. Like, we don't need this animated booby-trap, you know, escaping the ship scene in the show. So, like, I'm totally cool with this change. I think it works. But I have to wonder how they are. Or I guess I'm I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that they took episode 3 and made it about 5 minutes long.
Yeah. Well, I don't know though, because I wonder if they're.
Yeah.
I wonder if episode 2, like the new show, is gonna cut back to there, because like we didn't meet Momo unless he's not in the show.
Oh yeah, I don't even know anything about. I don't even know.
Right.
If
So
the
it's
show.
like,
you're right.
I don't know, because like the episode was very like thrown in at the end.
It felt like,
and
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're gonna like start episode 2 where they're still there. Maybe.
I
get though that they have to fit episodes into one, because it's the way it is. But
it just felt like, and I understand they covered some of that background earlier on with like the 100 years before. Like we get some flashback scenes in that episode, and they put them at the beginning, and so I get that. But it just felt like they showed up at the temple. They immediately find Gyatso's body, like within a minute of being there, and then it's just like he goes into the avatar state out of like anger and pain, and like that just didn't really feel, the buildup didn't feel right. Like that like moment didn't feel right to me.
Well, because they did this thing where like they told him that all the airbenders had died, and in the show he doesn't find that out until they get there.
Right. That's true. That you think
it feels
like,
a little bit like the emotion isn't as much, because like in the show in the animated show they go to the like air temple, and then like he finds no one's there.
Right.
Whereas in this show, the grandma, I'm pretty sure it was stupid grandma, was like,
you're the last airbender.
They all died. Yeah. You're the last one. And I'm like, well, now you just ruined it for him.
Because, like, they set up, like, I remember this really impactful moment after he goes into this, like, state of, like, pain, avatar state. Because, again, in the show, his, like, the avatar state for him is brought on by emotional, like, outbursts, basically. And after he comes out of that, he's like, I really am the last airbender, aren't I? Like, he's accepting, he's like, that's a real thing. You know, before he's like, oh, you just haven't found them, you know, because you're in the water tribe. Like, oh, they must still be around. He still has that optimism about it. And I think that shift is really important for the show. And so I feel like, I don't know, like that, the emotional impact I don't feel like hit the same for me.
No.
And so that I'm like, okay, I get it why they included it with this episode, because it would be weird to start with that in a second episode.
Yeah.
And especially since they already set up the background stuff early on. Like, I'm like, I get why that makes sense, but I just wish there was like, I don't know, like I wish we had a little bit more dynamic with Sokka and Katara and Aang, because like the three of them in that episode, you know, they kind of get to be a little silly and get to have like, you know, they're trying to, Katara's like kind of hiding evidence, and Sokka's like, he's gonna find out eventually, and like, let's just let him show us, you know, his home. And I just feel like, I don't know, like something was missing from that, the choice of how they did that. So I wasn't like fully on board with that. I'm like, I get it, but I just felt like they could have just given us like, give it like 5 more minutes, you know, like give us a little more time.
Yeah.
But that outro song, that updated outro song.
Oh yeah, that was nice.
I was like, ooh. I like this.
Yeah, I wasn't like,
I'm on board. See, that's how you do a little teaser. That's how you tease the anime show.
I did feel like the soundtrack was like pretty decent.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't mad about that.
I wasn't either.
Because we had mentioned like how they would do like the music and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was like a good part of it. I mean, I felt like for the most part, like a lot of the colors and stuff were cool. Like things looked very like
I like the set designs. I like the way things look.
Yeah. So I mean, there was definitely some positives. It's not like the movie where I just think everything was wrong. I feel like there are some positives. There are definitely some things I'm concerned on, and like the airbending is like hard to watch.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the airbending specifically.
Yeah, but I mean overall, like I was intrigued. I was like, it kept my attention, and I didn't hate it. I'm curious to see how they'll go the rest of the show.
Yeah, I think where I stand is that I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Yeah. Like if I was gonna give it a rating, I think I'd give it like a 6 out of 10 is where I'd probably be.
Yeah, I'd be like a 5.5 or a 6.
Somewhere like a 6, because I'm like, I see the potential.
Yeah.
I see where we can be, but I'm not there yet. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but like it's not like terrible. It's
No.
got room to build.
It does. I think it has potential.
Man,
Which can be a good or bad thing.
I will tell you, I was disappointed when we heard Kyoshi speaking and not Roku, because Roku has this like iconic voice that I was just like, oh, no Roku.
Yeah.
He's not here yet, and hopefully he'll show up. I mean, I love Kyoshi, don't get me wrong, love Kyoshi. And I'm assuming we'll see her next episode or the episode after when they get to Kyoshi Island. So, looking forward to that. But one thing I was trying to look up, and I don't know why IMDb is being difficult. I wanted to see if the guy who did the music for Avatar is doing the music as well. I was curious about that, and I don't know why who's doing that music. Okay, it's not the same person.
Okay.
That was one thing I wanted to know. I'm like, is it the person who did the animated show and Korra? Because the guy, I think his name is Jeremy Zuckerman or Zucker something. He did Avatar, the animated show, and Legend of Korra animated. So I was just curious if this is the same person, and the answer is it is not. So
it is not.
It's not.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel like I'll try to be as optimistic as I can.
Yeah.
Willing to give it a chance.
I am as well. That's exactly where I am. I'm not writing it off based on the first episode. I'm willing to give it a chance, see where we go from here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did have some problems though. With what we saw. So I'm a little cautious.
I feel like we kind of were expecting. I wasn't so like optimistic to be like, there's gonna be no issues, because that's like, it's such a hard bar.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Such a high bar.
Such a high bar. Yeah.
And so there's always going to be things that, and it's also like a thing too of like, sometimes it's just like a thing of preference. And like when I mentioned Sokka's voice, I just miss his voice from the anime. It's just like, that's like a thing of preference. And like, just because you grow so used to characters the way they are.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that I think, and I hope they'll like try and improve on.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. We're going to watch a couple more episodes and come back and discuss. So I guess we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, we're going to watch up through episode 4. So we're going to get to the halfway point, halfway through 8 episodes. And then we're going to come back and talk about
Share some more thoughts.
So,
So, we'll see. We'll see how things progress.
We'll see. I had some questions because I just like two little tidbits because we did talk about this when we started. What was your favorite character of this episode?
Zuko.
Yeah, I agree, Zuko.
I think not even just because like, not necessarily even for his story, but I just think I was so impressed with how well the actor was able. It's hard to portray like an animated character,
especially like a well-loved animated character. Yeah.
And I was really impressed with the actor, and I was really impressed with how they were able to show the complexities of Zuko's character within, like, however many minutes he got to be on screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, Zuko for sure was my favorite.
And then the other thing I was going to ask you is, so I read something that the creators of the show who had worked on it, and then left, they were credited for this episode.
Okay.
I think for writing. So I'm curious, do you think, and I think they're only credited on this episode specifically, do you think that is going to impact the next episodes we see, like their influence? Because I imagine they had a lot more influence earlier on than later on, just in a general sense. So I'm curious your thoughts on if that's going to change, or if it's more like they kind of laid a structure and other people filled in.
I think it depends on like how many other writers were like around with them for because obviously like there's certain things like you can't become another writer, like you can't embody the way they write. But I guess it depends how long they were around for and how much like influence they had on the people around them. I definitely think like it will have some impact. You have to imagine it will have some impact.
For sure.
But But yeah, it depends on how much influence they had on the other people before they left the show. We'll see. You don't know until you see it. I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that about covers it for episode 1, the pilot. Episode Aang.
Aang. Yeah. That is research break.
That's research break. So, if you have anything you want to tell us, you can email. Oh, Cash. Little Cashy. He's in the background licking his legs behind Hannah. But yeah, if there's anything you want to talk about or tell us, any comments you have, you can reach us at r3podcast@gmail.com or on our Instagram, r3podcasts. Or I think it's actually Research Rank Repeat on Instagram. Just kidding.
we couldn't get. I don't think someone.
You're right. We couldn't get the handle.
There's another podcast that's called like
R3 Podcast. Or
R3
something.
Podcast, but it's not. Yeah.
I think they're fighting behind you. There's some type of scrap.
There's a lot of meowing.
They're
Okay,
scrapping.
let's. Yeah. Instagram, Letterboxd.
Yeah, Letterboxd. But yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next research break.
Bye.
Bye.
We would like to thank Joseph McDade for our intro music. He provides free music available for all kinds of creative use. The song that we used is called Sunrise Expedition, and you can find it and his other music on his website, josephmcdade.com. If you would like to reach us, you can email us at r3podcasts@gmail.com. That's R, the number 3, podcasts@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Instagram by searching Research Rank Repeat.